Welcome back to the channel, PloopAChoopTV, and if you are new to the channel, welcome to Break the Backlog, the show where I sit down and provide my thoughts, opinions, and personal stories about a particular game that I've been wanting to cover. Today's episode is going to be on our first finished game of the new year that we just wrapped up a few weeks back on our Twitch channel, Kena: Bridge of Spirits. This game really captivated my chat and I over the course of its story, and I thought that there was no better time to cover this game than right after my first playthrough. If you like this style of content, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We post regular videos, and we're well on our way to reaching 150 subscribers. With all of that out of the way, sit back and relax as we break the backlog on Kena: Bridge of Spirits. As customary on Break the Backlog, I want to first take some time to give a general idea of what this game is about. Kena: Bridge of Spirits follows a young spirit guide who is searching for a sacred shrine that's atop a large mountain. However, when she arrives in the village within the forest of the mountain's base, she becomes entangled in a mystery of what happened to its inhabitants. We first meet Kena in a dark cavern that she's ventured into on her way to the mountain shrine. It is within this cavern that she crosses paths with a very powerful and ominous masked spirit who demands that she leaves his home at once. Despite her attempts to help this masked man, Kena is forced to arm herself with her magic staff and defeat the enemies he calls forth. Upon dispatching of these enemies, Kena exits the cavern and is surrounded by the lush and beautiful green vibrance of the forest. As she travels along the path towards the village, the spirits of two young boys can be seen running and playing. These boys do seem curious of Kena when they first notice her, but end up avoiding her for now, and it's here where Kena meets the adorable creatures named the Rot, who will be her companions on this adventure. The Rot reminded me of the Soot Sprites a bit from Spirited Away, and my chat instantly fell in love with them. In fact, my chat insisted that they were the Rot to my Kena, and anytime that the Rot would become a key part of a fight or solving a puzzle, my chat would pretend to fly their banners and rally, which was as cool as it was hilarious. Upon entering the village proper and approaching the entrance to the mountain path, Kena meets the spirit of village elder Zajiro, who explains that to break the seal on this pathway and grant herself passage to the shrine, Kena would need to assist the spirits of the villagers who are trapped between this world and the afterlife. Kena then sets off into the forest to help the two spirits of the boys that she saw earlier, who we now know are named Benny and Saya, and reunite them with their older brother Taro, who has been trapped by the corruption plaguing this land. And thus begins Kena's involvement in uncovering the tragic tale of this village and how its inhabitants met their end. The narrative here is beautiful, and those who have followed the channel for a while now will know that me and Nadia have had an extremely tough last half of a year, battling our own journey with grief. The themes within this game were all too familiar to us, and I actually did tear up off camera as one of the characters vocalized his struggle with blaming himself for the loss of his loved ones. This game's massive strength is in its ability to tell a beautiful and heartbreaking story that anyone who has experienced the loss of a loved one can immediately identify with. I felt such a strong connection with the characters in this game, and working through their stories of these various spirits as they worked alongside Kena to free their trapped loved ones helped me realize how much I was blaming myself for my own grief and trauma. Kena taught me to be kinder to myself and allow me time to grieve without blaming myself for things that are out of my control. Not only this, but as a person who definitely believes in the paranormal but is not religious in any way, this game's use of the afterlife, spirits, and how they interact with the world around them really moved me and brought a smile to my face as I applied my own situation to the storytelling of this game. As always, I don't want to spoil too much more of the game's story in this video, but if you are curious and you want to experience the game but don't necessarily have the means or want to buy and play it for yourself, you can check out our condensed and edited playthrough whenever that video drops, or if you are a fan of experiencing the whole story over a period of a few days, check out my full game playthrough video, which will be linked in the description below. That being said, I do urge you to support this title if you have the means to do so. It is a beautiful game with an equally wonderful story that was crafted with love and care by a team of people who at their core understand how to navigate the emotions felt after losing a loved one. The core of Kena's gameplay is aiding spirits and tracking down the relics or items that have a strong spiritual connection to their loved one that allow Kena to confront their corrupted souls in an effort to reconnect the two parties and send them to the ethereal afterlife. Locating these relics sees Kena utilizing the typical skills found in other action-adventure games such as platforming, puzzle solving, and of course, beating the Rot out of enemies. See what I did there? As Kena gains the ability to use new tools, the puzzles incorporate these skills, such as by having her use her magic bombs to lift certain stone platforms up and allow her to reach otherwise inaccessible places. The puzzles here are well thought out, and I found myself impressed by the sometimes subtle placement of solutions to, say, a grouping of crystals that needs to be shot with an arrow in a very particular order, and then finding this order in the constellations that reside in the distant sky over these stones that you can see perfectly when you look at them from a certain angle. These puzzles were also evenly placed throughout the game, and I never felt as though I was doing too many of them in succession. Platforming is brilliantly combined with these puzzles, often requiring the player to use Kenna's various magic tools to open up the environment and quickly traverse the altered surroundings before the sound-based timer ends. I thought that this use of tools as more than just weapons was a nice touch. Neither of the tools that she gains throughout her journey ever really become obsolete in either combat or traversal. Because of my constant reliance on these tools to explore the environment and progress through the story, I became much more comfortable and efficient with the bow and bomb, to the point where I found myself reaching for the bow way more than the staff in my earlier hours of combat in this game just out of habit. At the end of all the platforming and puzzle sequences lie the mini-bosses or big baddies, who are the keepers of the various relics that Kenna is hunting down. This is another component that adds to the feeling of growth that we experience as Kenna, because some of these mini-bosses are very difficult upon our first encounter, but eventually they become normal mobs that we can take down with a few well-placed arrows, or maybe by combining our staff with the rot to crush their skulls. Kenna also has access to shielding herself with the power of her staff, but should this shield be too heavily relied upon, it will shatter and cause Kenna to be knocked back and left vulnerable to attack. Once again, we see this progression system come in, where this could be totally avoided through mastering the timing of using the shield, as there is a parry mechanic in this game, and if you pair that with a later upgrade, it refills Kenna's shield upon a successful parry. Kenna also has access to a dodge roll, which, it's not Soulsborne in any sense, but there are times where I felt like, oh man, this is really Elden Ringy, where I'm just like rolling around an enemy trying not to get hit. Upgrading Kenna's combat abilities also sees her gain access to more damaging staff attacks, more ammunition for her magic projectile weapons, and even abilities that allow Kenna to infuse her weapons with their army of rot, like I said earlier with the rot hammer, to greatly increase her damage output. Stringing together these attacks and skills as I became more comfortable and fluent with what Kenna was capable of helped me utilize strategies for taking down even the most powerful of enemies. Exploring this beautiful world and working towards purifying not only the environment, but also those who once inhabited this place, is great fun as you solve intricate puzzles designed to build comfort on skills that the player will use for the entirety of their playthrough. The immersion and sense of progression that I outlined here is mainly the product of intelligent game design, and the once powerful enemies becoming chumps after Kenna gets stronger, or the puzzle solving speed being more efficient as we become more familiar with the tools at our disposal. Kenna is just an extremely fun game from a gameplay perspective, and I can't think of a time that I was bored throughout the entirety of this game. Kenna is drop-dead gorgeous in every way possible. The most common praise that my chat gave this game in the early parts of the playthrough compared it to a Disney animated movie in terms of the graphics and art style, and I'd have to agree. The pre-rendered cutscenes are beautiful and do invoke the magic of a Disney animation movie, and they're not all too different from the gameplay in terms of quality. I don't remember how many times I commented on the beauty of the nature and the forest around me while I played this title. The scenery was varied as well, with Kenna visiting mountaintops, dense forests, cliffs and plains, and cave systems that all have their own vibe and place within the story. This aesthetic serves as a narrative tool for the plot as well, as the land here is so green and full of life, and that's placed in juxtaposition against the gray decay of the corruption that infects large portions of the environment. This is even down to the score, which has sweeping orchestral instrumentation that once again invokes the magic of a Disney movie. I'm not really well read in video game music or how it's produced, but what I can say is that the theme song in this game is a perfect pairing to the emotional themes within this tale. This corruption to the land is a visual representation of what it did to the hearts and souls of our lost spirits, and through themes and navigating grief and emotions and purifying the land, we are actively cleansing the soul of misplaced guilt and blame to allow ourselves to heal. The sound design was masterfully created to reflect this and drive this home, such as when entering the corrupted zone, the music fading away and becoming almost silent in the background, to further exaggerate that the corruption took everything from these people. I also want to make a note here that the voice acting cast put in a wonderful performance in bringing these characters and their stories to life. I honestly have no complaints about any aspect of this game's presentation. Every fiber of this game is dedicated towards that messaging, at least that's what I took away from it. And it's through this beauty that the story and gameplay are enhanced. The world of Kenna is a beautiful and tragic symphony of life, death, loss, and healing. Kenna Bridge of Spirits is one of the best gaming experiences I have ever had, not only because of its charming art style and engaging world building and exploration, but because of its ability to heal. The story tackles loss in a way that I think would be digestible for many audiences of various backgrounds and age groups, and I think that anyone who's going through a tough time right now would identify with the narrative of this game. The story is well crafted, the presentation is alluring and magical, and the gameplay is both engaging and satisfying. Each one of these areas were also created in a way that allows them to build off of one another. From the woodland instruments disappearing as Kenna steps foot into a decayed zone, the literal sounds of life fading as the colors and vibrance disappear from the area around her, to Kenna's growth as a spirit guide and character throughout the story as she faces and overcomes various obstacles and adversity in supporting these spirits to the other side. Every aspect of this game's development were parts that worked together to create a cohesive work of art. I highly recommend Kenna Bridge of Spirits to anyone who enjoys games with strong narratives, as you will not be disappointed with the story of a village being made whole once more. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and if you have played Kenna, I would love to hear about your experience in the comments below. Don't forget that if you want to catch up on Kenna and don't really want to play the game for yourself, you can check out our long compilation video, which is a monster of a 7.5 hour video that you can just throw on whenever you're cleaning, working, doing schoolwork, whatever you got going on. You can just throw that on and watch it if you really just want to experience the game as a whole. If that's a little long for you, totally get it. I also have an edited, condensed version coming out, which will be complete with memes, jokes, the funniest moments, the saddest moments, the best moments, all condensed down into an hour. Be on the lookout for future streams as well, and make sure you follow us on Twitch, as we're getting ready to start the next series, if we haven't already started it by the time this is uploaded. Make sure you subscribe and hit that little bell icon so you never miss a video, and until next time, I've been Dillet, you've been the PloopAChoops, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.